Alright, so pretty much did most of the rock work and all the cracking and stuff, and I think it's looking pretty good. I think this is going to come together very well. As I was sculpting it, I was making sure all these little cracks that are in the symbol are following the cracks in the rocks going around the edges. So when I do my glow in the cracking is going to go around all this stuff as well. Now, like I said earlier, I want to focus more on the character more than the base. So as I was working on this, I'm like, okay, we have the symbol. It's going to be rocks with a little bit cracking of green. So we got to have some kind of like power or some kind of thing going underneath her foot here to, you know, to kind of go with the base. So I'm going to do like some kind of a simple, like kind of bubbling like thing going from around here to around there. And then when I go to paint it, it's going to be like a fluorescent green, because I'm not going to do pearlized green or metallic greens, because that's going to be safe for the outfits, you know, to make them look silky. And this is going to be like more of a fluorescent green. And like I said, I don't want to overpower this item. I want the base to be like, you know, like kind of telling a story, but we don't want to make the base the main thing. You know, like I've been talking to a lot of people who are asking for commissions. They're saying that, you know, they don't want these crazy elaborate bases anymore. They want to focus more on the figures. And I've had people who are like, can we shrink down the base, or can we make a generic base and stuff like that? So, I mean, even me personally, from my own collection, I like characters that you're focused on the character, and maybe the base tells a little bit of a story, but it doesn't overpower. Plus, you know, I don't have the room, and a lot of other guys are running out of room too with this hobby. So it's like, the idea is like smaller bases I think are better, and I think this is kind of cool if I do more Green Lantern stuff. You can put the symbols on there, especially if, you know, you're doing all the Green Lantern Corps. You could always do the symbol for every character you make, and it's kind of cool, and it just tells a little bit of a story, but you're looking at the character more than anything. So that's where we're at. Like I said, I let this cure up overnight, and the next day I get a chance, we'll do some smooth bubbling effect around here, and then I can sand this all down, get it all prepped up, and then finish up the statue. But we will do a video of me painting the base too, so you get an idea of how I was envisioning it and everything too. So that's where we're not going to skip that part. But that's where we're at, and we'll just be back. Alright, so I think I'm pretty much happy with the power trail. I was going to do those like little fire things, but I was looking up a lot of artwork for Green Lanterns, and most of their trails are kind of, it's just a basic green trail following them. And I kind of wanted to give it a little bit of like movement, like almost like she's floating but kind of moving in a way. So what I did is I saw one picture where a little bit of a trail going from the Green Lantern was kind of wavy. Now if this was like clear resin, it would look pretty cool, because you get some of that like movement in the clear resin, but of course, you know, we're not doing clear resin, so I think we're just gonna run with it like this. Yeah, I think it's pretty much where I want it. I think it's kind of got like a little bit of a flow going, maybe a little bit of a floating as well. You know, with Green Lantern though, you could go really crazy. You could do like, you know, stuff all around the character and stuff, but you know, we're just focusing on the simple base now. So I think looking forward like this, I think it works out pretty good, because you know, you got the symbol, which is going to be rocky. We're going to have all the cracks the same color as this floating green for the foot. So I think it works pretty good. And like I said, if this foot was sculpted, it would be like this. So this would kind of fit right in there. So you would, you know, so if you just think about the way this foot is like that, it kind of works. But I think that's pretty good for now. So what I'll do is I'll let this cure up for the night. We'll start cleaning up the base. And then if I think I'm going to add anything else, I might. But I think as for right now, I think we're looking pretty good. I think this is exactly where I wanted to go with this base and make it simple. And pretty much we'll be focusing on the character. So this is kind of where the character is at the moment. So it's kind of like we want to focus on the character more than the base. And that's the whole object. So we'll be back once I figure out what's the next step. Alright guys, so everything's pretty much cured up and ready to go. So the next step is priming this up and sanding it down, and then we can start painting it. I just gotta make sure that I'm getting rid of any errors, making it smooth. Statue goes in and out of the base pretty well now, as you can see. Whenever I do custom work, because of these paints and stuff gets messy there, so you can't really, you know, paint all that and expect it to be perfect, because if it's going in and out, it's going to get messed up. A lot of the paints in China are probably lead based when they say they're not, but they probably are, because they're really tough, and whenever I strip those paints down off a statue, that stuff doesn't deteriorate in the acetone like a lot of other paints here in USA does. It's just, you know, certain countries are allowed certain things. So next step is it's a pretty nice day out today. It's not as cold yet. It's probably maybe in the 50s and not really high wind chills, so I could probably get in the garage and actually get this primed up, because that's my next step. I really want to get this primed, and then I could start finding all errors and seeing what's what. Okay guys, so back onto the base. Now it looks a little bit different from last time, only because I used this base to hold up the figure while I painted the figure. Now that the figure is done, I'm actually getting back onto the base and want to finish it all up. What I did is I went in the garage earlier and I sanded it all down. I really did some fine sandpaper. I smoothed it all out, and we're looking pretty good. So instead of going back with the primer through the can, what I'm doing is I'm using this surface primer from Vallejo over everything. What I did is I did the bottom of the base, and then I hit it with a blow dryer, and then we're pretty good there. So now that we're kind of closer to the end of the night anyway, and I want to get a couple things done that are easy so they can kind of dry overnight, I'm going to do this part of the base down here. The reason why I'm going to be doing this process is because we're kind of in winter time now. It's getting too cold, so I can't use like can black paint, you know, like Duplicolor or Krylon or anything, because it's too cold in the garage and it won't work. Plus, I don't like using a lot of thick black paint from a can, spray can, on a base like this, because if you hit it over here, it's beautiful, but if you hit it up here, you might start losing detail because it's really thick. And the other thing too is if you get any kind of bleeding, you lose, it just messes everything up. So I kind of like this little process where this could kind of look nice, glossy and finished without overspraying anything. So we'll do this first, and then once that's all cured up for tomorrow and everything's good, I'll do a nice coat of the Model Air Black, because I love the way this stuff goes on. I wish they would make bigger bottles of this, but they only make it in this size. Then once that's all dried up, what I'll do is I'll do a nice clear coat of Duplicolor Clear all over that. This works out beautiful with this here. You get a really nice glossy coat, and then you don't have to worry about any thickness or any bleeding, because you have more control over this, and you have a lot more control over this compared to a a gloss black coming out of here really thick. So what I'm going to do is just going to get this primed up, get it all set up, and then tomorrow I'll show you the kind of clear coating, how it looks, and then after that it's just a matter of masking this off and then doing all the rocks and stuff. So let me get this done up tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Alright, so this morning I woke up, I sanded some of it down a little bit, then I painted it up with the black, and I just did a gloss coat in the garage, so we're looking pretty good. I'm going to dull it down just a little bit. I'm going to use the flat top coat on it. Just dull it down, not too much, but also the flat top coat kind of helps it from the silly putty not really stick into it, because it is kind of like a clear card paint. Even though it really doesn't stick, the reason why I do that is if there's any little bits of paint stuck in the silly putty, it helps from not sticking onto here, so it kind of works out pretty good. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to kind of let it dry for a little bit, and we'll come back and we'll start doing some dry brushing and everything. I'm going to keep these rocks kind of like a greenish tint to them too, because I don't want them being like pure rockiness onto here. I want it to be kind of greenish, so we'll show you how I do all that and everything. Alright, so we're ready to start painting this up. What I did is I did all my masking with some silly putty and some saran wrap. I masked this part up here only because I didn't feel like painting all this up and dry brushing and stuff and then having to sand and smooth this part out again. Plus I'll probably add a little bit of a blend when I go to airbrush this, so we'll see how it works out. So what I got is some Liquitex Heavy Body, just white paint. I have this container I've had since college back in 95 to 98, so you know, I still use this all the time with my paints, and I have a dry brush. You know, you get these fan brushes anywhere. I usually get whatever's on sale at the store when I hit it, back to school sales. So basically I'm just going to put this in here and just do some dry brushing, and then once this is pretty much looks like a little bit of rocky and I get some of that white, I'll go airbrush, I'll do some washes, and we're just going to kind of give it like a rocky feel, like this was sculpted out of the rocks, and then kind of give it a little bit of a green tint, and then this will be brighter green with all the little cracking in there. Alright, so we got that part ready to go. Now we're going to kind of tint it a greenish gray. So what I have is transparency light green and transparency Payne's gray from Garage Kit Colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of green it up, and then once that's got like a nice green tint to it, I'm going to do some Payne's gray. And then I might go back to some dry brushing, I'm not sure yet, but I just want to keep it like, you know, greenish type rock. But I don't want to make it too green, but we'll see how far we go with it. Alright, I got a nice dark green rock. I like where it's at, but I kind of want to just add a little bit more. The Payne's gray is always going to be able to take it down if I go a little too much. So what I might do now is I might try some, what is this, light green permanent, maybe with some white dry brushing, get a little bit more brightness in some areas, then hit it with some more Payne's gray, and then we'll just see how it looks. Alright, so I did some more dry brushing on it, and I actually like this a lot. I'm going to actually keep it the way it is, because it feels like there's a glow going around here, because when I start filling in all these cracks with a bright green, which I think I'm going to use this green, which is a bright yellow green, for the glow up here and then in these cracks. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these cracks first, see how this all looks out. But I think that's I like that, because it feels like this is kind of rocky with some kinds of glows, but I think once I add this in here to some of these cracks, maybe some of it around in here, will really make this kind of piece kind of glow up pretty cool. And then I think once I get all that done, I can actually unmask this area here, and I can just slowly airbrush this green on here. So if any overspray comes down around here, it'll feel like it's glowing on the rock too, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of the whole idea that I'm going for, since this isn't, you know, since it's not clear resin. So let's get all these cracks and everything and start doing all these glows. Alright, so we got a few steps left, not many at all. After doing this, I've kind of been debating, you know, maybe it's just too flat green. I want to just add a little kick to it. So I'm going to add some iridescent green from Garage Kit Colors. Just kind of mist a little bit on, just to give it a little bit of iridescent. So this way when I add some nice clear coat over it, it's going to kind of gloss up a little bit, and it'll work out pretty well. And then after that, the last step is just putting stuff on the bottom of the base. So, you know, like the rubber pads. I have some other stuff that I found. I'll kind of show you what I'm going to do with that. And then that's it. So I'm going to get this going so this way we get this project done. Alright, so the last part of the base, and I like to do this stuff for my own customs. I just kind of like to take that extra step. You can get this foam stuff anywhere, really. You know, you get it at like hobby stores and stuff. What I like to do is for certain things is I cut off like strips and like little squares. Like I follow like this little pattern here and cut off squares. I would like to have circles, but I never found anything that can actually make circles out of these. You know, because a lot of the bottom of bases have circles. But what I like to do with certain things is I made the circle of the bottom of the base, but you got to kind of go in a little bit further. And then what I do is I take my little tools here. For certain bases like these little smaller ones, I kind of like to have a little fun. So you can take your tool and you can kind of try to find the center, you know. Go a little bit here, a bit more there. Okay, so that's probably about there. So I go in a little bit more than when I need to. And then I make my marker. And then when I go in is a little bit more than that. Okay, so I got that going. And get yourself a X-Acto blade. And you don't have to do this, like I said, you can just do squares and stuff. These things aren't really that expensive. You can get them fairly cheap. And then what we'll do is try to go around this piece as best as I can. And just the reason why I do this is you don't want to scrape up the bottom of the base, plus you don't want to scrape up the shelf that it's going to go on. Now you could do the stickers, you can do anything you want for your bottom of your bases, but this is kind of a little bit of a easier side of things. Okay, so we move that stuff out of the way, and then what I like to do is we could kind of turn this here, take this piece, and then kind of put it on the side. So now it's pretty good, and we don't have to worry about any scraping or anything like that. And for fun, what I like to do is, my friend made me these stickers of my logo and stuff, so it's kind of a fun way to, you know, add a little extra to the bottom of bases. So what I like to do is put a little sticker there. And then, with my horrible script handwriting, and then I do that stuff on the bottom of the bases. So I try to have a little bit of fun with them like that. And that is the bottom of the base. So now we have something that's not going to scrape. It goes along pretty good. And there you go. So that is the Arisia Green Lantern base. Hopefully you guys liked the video and how everything came through. Tonight hopefully I get a chance to put up the final video. So thanks for watching.